Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Wright Play. I am your host, Blake Wright, and today I have a very special guest. She is an actress, producer, director, educator. Some of her accolades include entrepreneurial educating schools for theater, Masters of Fine Arts, and Tony-nominated educator, Tony-nominated theater. How do I say it? Tony nominated an award for, say it, Linda. Say it, take it
Okay,
away.
I was nominated for a Tony Award for Excellence in Theater Education in 2015. How about that?
That is how you say it. Gosh, that was a mouthful, but I'm glad that you were able to pick up the bag and help me get to the finish line on that one. So
Thank,
thank you.
thank you. Well, thank you for having me. And may I say that you are a very talented man. Your accolades include directing, producing, writing, acting, your music, and you are inspiring to all of us because you keep going and you
Oh,
are successful.
thank you, Linda. Well, I gotta give my hat to you on some of those fields because you've helped me build confidence as a performer over my career. And, coming from, for those of the audience that are listening and do not know, I'm from a very small town in Maine. And I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, because I had family down there. And that was the closest major market where I could pursue acting. And that's how I met Linda, because I looked up some of the best acting coaches in the area, and wham bam, Linda came up, and I've been studying with her for years now. So, Linda Ann Watt, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. And I have to say to you, when I hear and see what you're doing, it inspires me to teach. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I think that we should start right at the beginning, Linda. Like, how did you start in this wild ride in showbiz? You've got an amazing career and spans from many different facets of the industry, and it seems like you are always uh, reinventing yourself and adding more feathers to your cap. So how did this love for the arts start?
hmm hmm Okay, so as a little one, about 4 or 5, both my parents worked. So the TV set was my babysitter, but it was also my inspiration. So when I was 5, I said to my mom, all those people, what they do, I want to do that. Could you take me on auditions? That was at 4 and 5 because we
Mhm.
lived in New York and we were very close to Manhattan. So, I knew that there was casting going on in Manhattan. How I knew, I don't know, but I did. But my mom and dad were both working, so that didn't happen. So when I was about 14, just almost turning 15, I won Teen Hemisphere. And one of the gifts that I got was a scholarship to the New York Academy of Theatrical Arts in Manhattan. And I begged my mother to take me, and it was on Saturdays, so she did. And I studied with people who studied with Stanislavski, who was a pioneer in realism and acting in the late 1800s and 1900s. Now, you have to realize I was 14, 15, and they were 75. So that's how I got that. And then I started acting at Stella Adler Conservatory.
Really?
Uh, yeah,
Wow.
in Manhattan. Um, where else did I? I studied with some other people too.
Yep.
Well, I was on the waiting list for the neighborhood playhouse with Sanford Meisner. And
Yep.
it was a 2-year waiting period, but by the time I got in, I had already gone to LA. So I couldn't study with him. So, yeah. So that's how I started. It was my love of the craft,
Mhm.
seeing it, being immersed in it, because that was pretty much my day as a little one, and it never left me.
Well, that's amazing. I mean, one of my earliest memories, and I feel like all those that are watching or listening can that do what we do can relate. It's I think my first one of my first memories was going to see Star Wars The Phantom Menace in '99 as just like a little kid in the movie theater and being blown away. And it's when you find something that sparks the imagination, it becomes, just an absolute, I don't want to say obsession, but you want to know how it's done and you want to try it at least. And
Mm-hmm.
it just feels like a lot of people that have been watching and messaging have been saying that, wow, it seems like incredible stuff when you're breaking down the craft in such a um, logical and in layman's terms sort of way. But how do you put yourself out there? How do you get that? And so I want to just go into the next question I have for you, which is what throughout your years of not only performing but teaching is what do you think makes people take the jump?
Are you saying to study the craft of acting,
To
or are you?
to study and take a shot and go all in, and to try to do it because a
Either
lot of
have a
people,
love, they have a love for it. But you can't let naysayers stop you. Um, you know, you have to believe in your heart, and it has to be a passion.
yeah, I agree because going out on a limb feels like it's scary, taking a jump into anything that you may or may not, you know, like or do well at or find your
Right.
way in. But go ahead.
Well, all I was going to say is everybody is not great when they start,
Hmm.
but you have to feel that with every lesson and with every step you take, you keep getting better and understanding it more. And if that fuels you, then this is what you should be doing.
I agree. And I can 100% attest to that audience. I think Linda remembers me at the beginning being this, young kid who had an attitude and kind of just a lot of energy, but a lot of raw passion. And I feel like over the years, I've been honing it more and more. So
You did well, even when you didn't know
what
what the
we were
craft
doing.
was. You
Yeah.
had it innately in you. You might not have the words or the titles of what technique you were using, but you were finding techniques and you were doing great, even at the beginning.
Well, I appreciate that, Linda.
Yeah.
All right. So this is going to jump back a little bit.
Hmm.
I got to, what's your favorite role that you've had the opportunity to perform as?
The role of Janet in Blue Denim.
Janet and Blue Denim. I'm not familiar. Is it
It's
really?
okay. It was a 50s play and I think movie, and I did it at forgot the name of the theater, but down in Bleecker Street. Um, and it was the first play, first that people were watching me and seeing it in the audience. That was the first play I did when I was 15.
Really?
And in doing that, there was a deck of playing cards because
Okay.
this what was going on was two young men were playing poker, and I am the female in it. And so when I sat down to first act, and I didn't know a thing about acting, I wanted to feel comfortable. So I took the deck of cards and I started to play solitaire as I was doing the work.
Mm.
That's physical action.
Yeah.
I didn't know what I was doing, but it made me calmer. It made me more immersed in it, and it worked. So, yeah. So sometimes you don't even know what you're doing, but you're doing it.
No, for sure. And that is definitely a story that I've heard you say at least once or twice over the years. So
Yeah.
I'm that's interesting. I didn't realize that that was your first play ever.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
crazy. What do
Yeah.
you feel? Why, in addition to like it just being your first, and it's like first with a legit audience watching you. Why else did you
It
love the
was
part?
emotion. I connected emotionally to the character. She
Yeah.
was sensitive. Um, I was the age of the character. The storyline was that she falls in love with her neighbor, and she gets pregnant. And this is when abortion was illegal, as
Mhm.
we are dealing with that now. And what they had to grapple with society, their families, themselves. Um, the girl was 15 or 16, and at the time I was 15, so it was very relatable to me, and it was very poignant. And it was a drama, and I loved it. And it was, I could identify with all of the emotions that the character was going through. And I think when you're acting, if you don't understand the part, you shouldn't be doing the part. So
100%.
I understood what she was going through. So it was very it was enjoyable, and it felt natural to be, and I didn't feel like I was acting. I was being.
Mm. That sounds like a really memorable experience for you, and it's something that would give anyone enough like fuel to keep going for the next couple years after that until the next big moment where that when you get that next role that takes you to that gives you jet fuel, I guess is what I
Yeah,
would say.
yeah. And then, when I was doing it with SAG-AFTRA, I was a SAG-AFTRA member, and anybody who wants to know, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, which way back then was just SAG or AFTRA.
Mhm.
I was very typecast into the ditzy blonde,
Hmm.
and I nailed it. You know, yeah, I did it really well, but that wasn't my passion,
Yeah.
because that was too. It didn't have as many layers. It was, but it was also something that I achieved, and I was able to still be and not act, and come at it in a way of how the character would be airy and not delve into their layers as much. So again, I wasn't acting, I was being, but that was a typecasting. It was easy for me to get those roles.
And it was easy for you to step into as
Yeah.
well. So that's awesome. I guess we'll go on. This is something I personally want to know from you is what have you learned from teaching that has made you a better performer, do you feel like today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are so many times when if I'm going to work on something, I go, okay, if I was going to teach me, what would I say? Okay, creative hiding,
Mm,
using personalization, using substitution. Are you seeing what's in your environment? Or are you not in a space and a place? Um, so many things that I see with actors that I say, that's it. That's the thing.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
100%.
yeah, I agree. I think that so I've been thinking about this a lot since I've been back in class with you is like the success comes from the basics and really mastering the basics and not only that, but just being right for the part and feeling it. So do you think that like all those things, creative hiding, sense memory, the things that we go over, and I think the underrated is the environment, is really feeling it. And
Yes.
you feel like how do you feel like because I come from an athlete's background. When you're playing basketball, you're doing dribbling, you're, working on your fitness, you're trying to stay in shape. How does an actor do that on a daily basis or a weekly basis?
hmm You need to keep working on roles. If you're not working in the industry, if you're not having a director that's noticing what you're doing, then you need a coach or a teacher who's pointing, to keep improving you. Of course, you have to do all the other things, psychological, make sure you're emotionally okay, make sure you're physically feeling well, you're sleeping, and all of that you're saying that an athlete would do. But the most important thing is to keep working, because the
Mhm.
minute you stop working and then you get called for an audition where you're in front of a director, a producer, a casting director, who knows what the other guy is sitting there,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you have to do the work. and your emotional state is spinning out because your adrenaline and nerves are there. But if you're working every day, you know how to just do the work. And that's very important.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think it's coming back, you know, I had that first audition where I just, just dropped the ball. It was not smooth, but you're right, because if you do take time off, you got to get back on the bicycle. But then once you're on the bike, it's just like riding a bike. It's simple.
Yeah.
Do you think that in the world of self tapes, there's anything different you need to do to beat nerves when you're going into an audition?
Mm. The relaxation exercise helps.
Bingo. Yeah.
And I even have it on my website for the Actor's Manifesto,
Hmm.
my book, Create a Successful Acting Career. On my website, anybody can go to the audio part, and I will take them through a relaxation exercise. So for anybody who's listening, they can go to that and get it.
I've used that page. I have it bookmarked under my acting folder because I
Mhm.
use that almost on a daily basis at this point.
I know.
I've actually shared it with friends too.
One of my other students, John, I think you know him, John.
Oh yeah, I know John. Yeah.
Yeah, he says that it helps him when he can't sleep at night. He listens to it, and it helps. So yeah, it helps everybody. I've even been in court depositions, which have nothing to do with acting, and I have to speak, and it's like, all right, let me do the relaxation exercise. Nobody will notice. I
Hmm.
won't put my arms out and, do
Yeah.
but I start at the top of my head and go down and relax, and that's helpful.
I think that is like essential. It's very easy to get into your head, not only with acting, but also with, other performance things. Like if you're going on stage doing music, um, some people that listen do writing. I mean, I think that you can just it's good to have something that resets you, and I think that it's overlooked. A lot of people just feel like they can go from one thing to the next, and sometimes you can if you're in the mode and you got good confidence.
Hmm.
But I do think that for acting, you need to have that moment, and like we learn, and like Stanislavski, you got to be relaxed to just really flow with it
To
and
make
have that.
creative choices. Absolutely. If you're in fight or flight mode, you're not able to think clearly, you know?
Yes.
So you need to be in a relaxed state. Yeah.
And it's interesting. You hear about like the legendary stories from like the actor studio where they try to go over and like push him over because they want him to be almost like a rag doll
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff like
yeah.
that for the relaxation.
Just
And
enough tone in your body so you don't fall off the chair.
I
Yeah,
don't think I've ever been that relaxed during the exercise.
yeah,
I
yeah,
really don't.
yeah, yeah. When I was in school doing it, the teacher would actually come over and make sure that our arm was relaxed, or make sure our leg, they'd like pick up your leg or whatever part of your body. And then the Me Too movement and everything, that people were questioning people.
Yeah.
So now teachers are very careful that they will not intrude on someone's space.
Mhm.
So that's why actually that I don't do what my teachers in the past would do to see how relaxed I was.
Yeah.
It's a different, it's a culture that you don't want anything misconstrued. So that's why I don't do it.
Yeah. No, I get that. I get
Yeah.
that. It's
But you
important to,
should be so relaxed that if you put up your arm and you release it, it should just drop. And you'll find if you lift up your arm, a lot of times it stays there. And it's like, okay, you're not
gotta
relaxed.
force it to just drop.
Yeah,
It's definitely helped me. I wish I wish I did it more earlier. It feels like all the, all the things that I've learned from you and from, um, my time just with other, when I went to college studying theater, it feels like um, the tips, if you do them, and they take 15 minutes to just start before your even auditions, like
Yeah.
the results are better. And it just takes discipline to go ahead and take that next step. Some days we're tired, some days we don't, want to do it. But I do notice when I do the steps and actually relax and actually, warm up my voice and do a monologue. Like sometimes, you know, I think that in the master class, we don't really do this in, working actor studio is reading from like a newspaper or like a children's book or something. But I've been reading the Man in the Arena, the speech from Theodore Roosevelt, to just like do like a verbal warm up.
Just do a verbal warm up.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And when I
Absolutely.
do that and then go into relaxation and then look at my audition and then film, typically it is smooth
Right. Right.
versus trying not to. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. It's interesting.
It's
So
important. Stanislavski had everybody lie on the floor to do it. And Strasberg said, well, that's crazy. If we go to an audition, you can't lie on the floor in the waiting room while you're waiting. So maybe we should do it in a straight back chair. So that's how I do it with students. I was doing an educational DVD on it's Stanislavski and Strasberg, and I was producing it. And Shelley Winters, who was in Poseidon Adventure and The Diary of Anne Frank, and she won Academy Awards. And she was later, she was the grandmother of Roseanne Barr on the Roseanne Show. Anyway, she said when she was starting acting, it took her about 5 hours to relax and get into character. She said, but then as she got more experienced, she could do the relaxation within 30 seconds
wow,
and do a sense memory within a minute or two and be in character and ready to work within 2 to 3 minutes.
that's incredible.
Yeah. So the more you do it, the easier it is to get into that state.
So with the actor's manifesto, it's kind of you're bringing everything that you've ever learned at this point, all your stories, all your lessons coming together in this one book. Do you feel like this solidified your curriculum? Because you probably have like some sort of like, whether or not you write it down, but like some sort of like, mental, this is how my teaching goes.
Right.
Do you feel like that has kind of solidified you in, because I feel like you take from all the best teachers and then you bring your own tips. Do you feel
Mm-hmm.
like that kind of like brought you the moment like, okay, this is my style of acting, or how would you describe it?
No, I did okay, so I started teaching before I knew I was teaching.
Mhm.
So I was teaching diction to students when I was with Milton Casellas at the Beverly Hills Playhouse. Then I purchased video equipment before video equipment was so easily attainable, back in '87. And we started shooting projects, documentaries and commercials and theatrical programs. But I also, because I was in acting class with other students, I started teaching by doing their reels. So I
Mm.
was directing students, how to act back then. So to answer your question, my curriculum, yes, I pulled from the best teachers, um, between Milton Casellas, who was the best, in my opinion, of breaking down a scene and the
Yep.
script. He directed Butterflies Are Free on Broadway and the movie with Goldie Hawn, and he was phenomenal. So I got that from him. And then I studied with Laurie Hull, who was the master teacher for Lee Strasberg for 12 years.
Oh yeah.
And I got all of the method techniques from her. And then I pulled in from other teachers too. And I made my curriculum that I wrote down before I started formally teaching.
Mm,
But when I wrote the book, it was because I knew there needed to be a book that wasn't out there that pulled everything together. I think mine is the most comprehensive of not only how to act and the techniques, but also the science, the neuroscience
yes.
behind why the techniques work, along with how to promote yourself, along with the business of acting, what you should expect in the industry, and when to join the union, when not to join the union, what you need for your headshot, your reel, what you should expect for discrimination, because just like everything else in life, it comes down to acting, what your rights are as an actor. So and there was no book like that I saw. There were
No.
different books, but not one. And so I put everything that I could think of into that book.
I definitely think that it would be a book that is valuable to any actor at any level, but particularly for those that are listening, actors that are definitely in college. This book would be saving you some years right off the get go, with trial and error. And for those working actors right now that want to take a reevaluation, I definitely think that you should go on Amazon and take a look at Linda's book, The Actor's Manifesto. And Linda has done a lot of solid work for many actors over the years, and it's worth a read. I definitely think so.
Well, thank you. When I was teaching at Georgia State University, I was planning on using it as a textbook for any course that I was teaching in acting. But now it's out there for any actor. When actors are in college, very often they get theory,
True.
but they don't get the practical, the what's really going to happen when you get out there for an audition. And this book, I think, covers that.
I definitely think that it's all about, you know, you learn more from working than you do from you learn a lot from class and you learn a lot in studio, but I think that with you need to get out and work the muscles. You need to get out and get some reps in the real world. And I definitely think that your teaching, prepares students for that if they go in with confidence in themselves, 100%. So this is one of my last questions I have for you, because we are on the countdown of the free Zoom world. But um, what do you think? How do you make a good actor great?
That's a great question. Every actor brings their creativity to whatever they're doing. And what I try to do is, as a coach, as a teacher, is to build on their strengths. They already have. Usually, when somebody's in my class, they're already doing some good work. And I just point out how to get them even better.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's subtleties. And everyone has one role or one type that they will excel at more than anyone else.
Interesting.
So you have to know your type and trust in your talent and trust in your creativity and go make the wacky choices. It might work, it might not work, but be creative and do it.
Mm, I like that. I like that. There's trust, the idea that you need to trust your choices, trust have conviction in what you do on stage. I think that people can see that, whether or not, and I don't think that you can fake that.
No, no, and don't pre-plan. The
No,
minute you
for sure.
pre-plan, you are dead in the water. I'm going to, on this line, move my hand this way. The minute you do that, it has to be, I am moving my hand because I cannot not move my hand because my impulse is that I'm going to get out of my skin if I don't move my hand, as opposed to pre-planning.
Yeah,
That's the one thing I could say to actors that, do not pre-plan.
agreed. It's forced.
Yeah.
It,
And it looks forced.
yeah,
And that's acting. That's not being.
correct. So I guess my last question I have written down for you is
I thought
what?
that was the last question.
No,
Okay.
no, I'm getting
Another
down
last.
towards the end.
Okay.
I had my final segment. This is my third act.
Okay. 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 What?
What do you think the qualities are of a master performer?
Hmm. The passion, the understanding of the character, and the freedom to be creative in choices.
Hmm,
And that's a master performer.
I love that. I love that. I'm going to be writing that down when we get off because I'm going to upload that because I think that's beautifully put and it's simple. It was laid out right there. But yes, it feels like when you see somebody that's really good at their craft, you can't really describe it, but you can point it out.
You can see it, feel it.
And but you're right, it is those three things. It's a combination of all of that. And I guess to close it out before we say our goodbyes for the audience, what is one piece of advice or a quote that you would love to leave for our fellow actors that are listening or watching?
As Milton Casellas, my acting teacher from Beverly Hills Playhouse, told me, Linda, just do the work. So I say to your people, just do the work. Trust and do the work.
Hmm. Well put. You hear that, people? Just do it. Just do the work.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome.
And what that means is don't let things spin you out. Don't just, you've got a job to do it. You know what you have to put into it. And don't let other things get you to jump out of scene or get you to jump out of character. Just focus, do the work.
Mm, I agree. Don't let, stay in the moment. Don't get distracted. Um, hop back in, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that's for sure. That's for sure. Well, Linda, it's been an absolute pleasure to bring you on to the Right Play. Is there any final thoughts that you want to share with the audience?
Just that I keep looking forward to seeing what you're going to do because you're always surprising us. And I want to hear your wins in the future. And I just want to thank you for having me on.
Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it. You'll be hearing my wins in about 45 minutes when we get on for the week.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay. Super cool. Super cool.
so Linda, where can people find you if they want to get a hold of you for buying your book or taking an acting lesson or taking your master class?
Okay. So if you're any place in the world, you can take my class on Zoom and you can find me at academyofacting.org. So academyofacting.org. If you want the book, go to Amazon. It's the Actor's Manifesto, Create a Successful Acting Career. That's on Amazon. And you can get it on for Kindle. You can get the soft cover or the hard cover. Then I teach in person, and you can get me there at charlotteacting.com. My production company is corlinproductions.com. And I, produce and direct projects for actors. And that's the ways you can get me.
Awesome. Well, I'll be putting all those links in the description on the
Oh,
YouTube
wait, wait,
video
wait, wait.
for sure. What?
I have a YouTube channel and I give
That's
tips
right.
for actors, right? So it's Academy of Acting with Linda Ann Watt on YouTube. And every 10 days or so, I drop a tip, but the tips come from actual my class experience. And usually what happened a couple of weeks ago or the week before that I noticed that might be helpful for an actor.
Perfect. I will be putting all those links in. And Linda, again, thank you very much.
Thank
And thank you very much for those who are listening and watching. And until next time, this has been The Right Play. Keep making the right play.